Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're jumping into a machine that looks built for fun rides and the long haul. We're focusing on the 2025 Honda NT1100. It's a sport touring motorcycle.
That's right. And we're basing this on a pretty fresh article, actually just out today, May 23rd, 2025. It's called 2025 Honda NT1100, the ultimate sport touring adventure machine. So, yeah, that's a good detail in there.
Okay, great. And just quickly, for anyone maybe less familiar, a sport touring bike, what's the idea there? It's kind of trying to be the best of both worlds, right?
Exactly. You get that sporty feel, the performance, the handling, but also the comfort you need for actual touring.
Yeah.
Like proper long rides.
Not just surviving the ride, but actually enjoying it. Makes sense. Like
Yeah.
a weekend blast that could turn into something bigger.
Precisely. So our mission here really is to unpack this NT1100 based on what the article says. We want to understand why it's getting attention, look at its engine, the tech, comfort, how it stacks up against rivals, basically see who this bike is really for.
All right, let's get into it. Starting with the engine, the core of the bike. The article mentions a liquid-cooled parallel twin. Why that setup?
Well, that parallel twin, it's interesting. The article notes it puts out 100 horsepower at 7,500 RPM. And maybe more importantly for this kind of bike, 77 pound-feet of torque at 6,250 RPM.
Okay, 77 pound-feet. What does that mean in practice?
It generally means smooth, accessible power. Strong pull without having to rev it like crazy. The article suggests it makes for easier riding, less shifting, good for overtaking, good for hills, just smooth.
So less frantic, more usable power that's just there when you need it.
That's the idea. And parallel twins are often pretty good on fuel too, which, for touring, that matters. Fewer fuel stops.
Right. And the article even hints it could handle some light trails. So that manageable power helps there too, I guess.
Yeah, suggests it's versatile, good on the highway, fine around town, and capable enough for maybe a gravel road or something similar. It's a flexible engine design.
Okay, but it's not just the engine itself. The article calls it a technological marvel. That sounds like more than just horsepower figures. What tech are we talking about?
Oh yeah, definitely. A big piece is the ride-by-wire throttle.
Okay.
So no physical cable, it's electronic. The article points out this gives really precise throttle control. And crucially, it opens the door for all the other electronic rider aids.
Okay. Like what does ride-by-wire enable?
Well, cornering ABS is a big one. That's a serious safety feature. The article explains how it helps prevent wheel lock even when you're leaning the bike over in a turn. It adapts the braking based on your lean angle.
Wow, okay. That sounds like it could really save your bacon in a tricky spot.
It definitely builds confidence. And then there's traction control, too. The article emphasizes that helps keep the rear wheel from slipping, especially on wet roads or maybe some loose stuff if you do venture off the pavement slightly. Keeps things predictable.
Makes sense. Keeping the bike underneath you. And it sounds like you can adjust how the bike feels. Something about riding modes?
Exactly. The article mentions touring, sport, rain, and urban modes. And these aren't just labels, they actually change things, like how sharp the throttle response is, how much the traction control intervenes, and maybe even the ABS settings.
So you can tailor it?
Yeah, you tailor it to the conditions or just, how you want to ride that day. Like rain mode will soften everything up for better grip.
That's pretty slick, having the bike adapt like that. Okay, but for touring, comfort is huge. What's the NT1100 doing on that front?
Comfort seems like a major focus, yeah. The article highlights mid-mounted foot pegs and wide handlebars. That combination usually gives you a more upright, natural riding position. Less strain on your back, wrists, all that stuff that adds up on a long day.
Yeah, I can imagine. Sitting hunched over for hours is no fun. My back already appreciates that, just thinking about it.
Yeah. And then there's the seat itself. The article calls it a plush saddle. A comfy seat is like non-negotiable for touring, isn't it? Seems they've put effort into making it bearable for hours. Plus, the seat height is mentioned at 32.3 inches. The article suggests that's kind of aiming for a sweet spot, making it accessible to a decent range of riders.
Okay, so comfortable posture, comfy seat. Sounds promising for long distances. What about specific touring features, things designed purely for hitting the road?
Right. Beyond just being comfortable, the adjustable windscreen is key. The article really talks that up. Being able to change the height, the angle, that helps manage wind blast, reduce noise, cut down fatigue massively on the highway.
Oh yeah, fighting the wind gets old real fast.
Doesn't it just? Then you've got integrated side cases. Panniers. The article points out they're spacious and, well, integrated, so you don't need to mess around with aftermarket racks and bags for typical trips. Just load them up and go.
Yeah, that's clean. Much tidier. But what about handling when those bags are full? Does the bike cope?
Good question. That's where the suspension comes in. It's got an upside-down fork at the front, monoshock at the rear. And importantly, the article says the rear shock has preload adjustment.
Preload, remind me.
Basically, you can stiffen up the rear spring. So when you add weight luggage, maybe a passenger at the back end doesn't sag so much. The article notes this keeps the handling consistent, maintains the ride height.
Well,
It's important for stability and safety when loaded.
gotcha. So it adapts to the load. Okay, now, the article pits this against some big names. The BMW R1250 GS and the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus Dolliers. How does the Honda fit in?
Right, the comparison. It helps place the NT1100. So the BMW GS, much bigger engine, 1254 cc, way more power, 136 horsepower, and a lot more torque, 105 pound-feet. It's also heavier.
Okay, the powerhouse.
Yeah. Then the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus, that's an 890 cc triple, makes 119 horsepower, so more than the Honda, but a bit less torque at 69 pound-feet. And it's the lightest of the three.
So the Honda's sitting kind of between them in some ways, but lowest on power?
Power-wise, yes. The BMW is the clear leader there, probably aimed at, maximum performance, maybe more serious off-road use too, depending on the spec. The Yamaha being lighter and punchier probably feels the sportiest, or agile. The Honda, with its 100 HP and strong mid-range torque, seems to be aiming for that balance. Usable power, comfortable ergonomics, maybe less outright aggression than the others.
What about touring practicalities? Fuel tanks? Seat heights?
Seat heights are actually pretty close across the board, all within about an inch. Fuel tanks. The Honda and the BMW both have 5.3-gallon tanks, according to the article. The Yamaha is a bit smaller at 4.5 gallons.
Ah, so the Yamaha might need more frequent fuel stops on a long trip compared to the other two.
Potentially, yeah. Range could be a factor there.
And the big one, price. How do they stack up financially?
This is maybe where the Honda makes its strongest case. The article estimates it at $15,999.
Okay.
Which is exactly the same estimated price as the Yamaha Tracer 9 GT Plus on.
Interesting. And the BMW?
The BMW R1250 GS starts around $21,995. So, yeah, significantly more expensive. A big jump.
Wow, okay. So the article seems to position the Honda as this blend of touring capability and street friendliness, but at a much more accessible price than the premium BMW, and competitive with the sportier Yamaha.
That's a really good summary, yeah. It looks like Honda's aiming for that sweet spot. For riders who want a really versatile, capable bike for touring and everyday use, but maybe don't need the absolute peak performance or the hardcore off-road chops of the GS and want it at a strong value.
Okay, let's boil it down. What are the absolute key advantages the article highlights for someone considering the NT1100?
Okay, key takeaways. 1,
Yeah.
that parallel twin engine, powerful enough, smooth, efficient, versatile for different kinds of riding.
Right.
2, the electronics package, ride-by-wire, cornering ABS, traction control riding modes. That all adds up to safety and adaptability, makes it easier to manage.
Yeah, the tech seems solid.
3, the comfort factor, the ergonomics, the seat, designed for long hours, which is crucial for touring. 4, those specific touring features, adjustable screen, integrated pan airs, real practical benefits.
Gotcha.
And 5, maybe the kicker for many, that price point.
Yeah.
$15,999 puts it right in the mix and makes it seem like, really good value compared to some competitors.
Ticks a lot of boxes then. But, like you said, no bike is perfect. What about the other side? Potential drawbacks or limitations mentioned in the article.
Fair point. The article is balanced. It does mention the power output. While 100 HP is plenty for most, it is lower than the BMW and Yamaha. So riders wanting that really aggressive top-end rush might find it a little tame compared to those, especially maybe loaded up 2-up.
Okay, depends on your priorities. What else?
The fuel tank. 5.3 gallons is decent, same as the GS, but maybe not class-leading for ultimate range. The article suggests you might be stopping a bit more often than on some dedicated long-haul machines, though it beats the Yamaha here.
Range anxiety is real for some long-distance riders.
It can be. Then there's the off-road aspect. The article's clear. It can handle light stuff, gravel roads, that sort of thing. But it's not an R1250 GS adventure. It's not built for serious off-roading.
So manage expectations there. Road bike first, light trails second.
Exactly. The article also briefly touches on maybe brand perception or aftermarket support compared to, say, BMW, which has a huge adventure ecosystem, though Honda's obviously massive globally.
True.
And finally, the tech itself. While it's an advantage for many, the article notes that for some riders, all those modes and settings might feel a bit complex or overwhelming if they prefer something simpler, more analog.
That's fair. Sometimes less is more for certain folks. Okay, the article wraps up with some FAQs. Let's hit those quickly. Price confirmed at $15,999 estimated MSRP.
Yep, that's the figure mentioned, $15,999.
And power figures again.
Oh,
100 horsepower, 77 pound-feet of torque.
correct.
The BMW comparison in the FAQ basically boils down to BMW having more power and torque, but the Honda being lighter and much cheaper.
That's the gist of it, yeah. Really hammers home the value proposition of the Honda against the GS.
Suspension, upside-down fork, rear monoshock with preload adjust. We covered that. Ground clearance for those lighter trails.
Listed as 5.9 inches in the FAQ. Decent for unpaved roads, fire trails maybe.
Okay. Fuel tank, 5.3 gallons confirmed. Now, interesting one, suitability for beginners. What does the article say?
It suggests yes, potentially. Because the power delivery is quite manageable, the weight isn't astronomical for its class, and the electronics can act as a safety net. As long as a new rider takes the time to understand the modes and features, it could be a good fit. It's not overly intimidating.
Good to know. And finally, long-distance touring capability. Thumbs up.
Definitely. The FAQ confirms it's designed for moderate to long trips, pointing to the comfort and storage. But it does reiterate the fuel tank size might mean planning stops on very long remote routes. Just something to be aware of.
Right. Okay, so wrapping this up, this deep dive based on the article paints the 2025 Honda NT1100 as, well, a really balanced package, doesn't it?
It really does. Versatile seems like the key word. It blends usable performance, real comfort, modern tech, and touring practicality.
And all at that competitive price point.
Yes, exactly. It feels like it could genuinely work well as a daily rider and a weekend escape machine, hitting a sweet spot for a lot of people. It's practical, capable, but doesn't seem to demand extreme skills or an extreme budget.
So it leaves us with a thought, maybe for you listening, considering everything we've talked about, the features, the performance, that price, what kind of adventures could you see yourself taking on this NT1100? And when you think about choosing a bike like this, a sport tourer, what matters most to you? Is it the tech, the comfort, the price? Where's your personal sweet spot? Something to chew on. Thanks for diving deep with us today.